Jacob Wilkins here with David Wright, who is one of the members of this year's Binghamton Baseball Shrine induction class. David, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the honor.
Of course, tell me, 2004 was quite the year for you, starting at Binghamton. Take me through some memories that stand out.
For me, I was drafted in 2001. I played a season at Kingsport, then I moved up to Columbia, then Port St. Lucie. And each stop along the way, I felt like I was doing well, or I was doing, good enough, but never really excelling. 2004 for me, something clicked. And that started in Binghamton. I got there. I had been told all along that AA is where a lot of teams keep their top prospects. It's a tough league, the Eastern League. You have to be ready to perform because all eyes are on you. So I felt like coming into this that, I was ready, and this was going to be a year for me that was going to kind of make or break, what type of prospect I was. And I got off to a good start, gave me all the confidence in the world. I loved the town. I loved the ballpark. I was comfortable with my teammates, and it kind of jump started my career, I think, getting off to that good start and then, kind of moving up along the way that year.
You talk about the numbers: 363, 10 homers, 40 RBI, 20 stolen bases, 44 runs scored. What clicked?
You know what? That's a good question. I wish I could have felt like I did in Binghamton a lot of times up in New York, in the city.
Right.
So, it was just something where I got sent to the Arizona Fall League after 2003. I played well in the Arizona Fall League, but, the knock on the Arizona Fall League was back then, I'm not sure if it still is now, is that a lot of teams don't send their top pitching prospects. So I played well in Arizona. They said it's a hitter's league, so it gave me a little bit of confidence, but I was still, I wouldn't say concerned, but excited about starting the year in Binghamton because it was really a time that I could prove myself that I'm one of the better prospects, one of the better minor leaguers, and try to force their hand, I never thought that I'd be promoted in 2004 to the big leagues, but, kind of force their hand to make me part of the plans for the future.
What was the moment like to get promoted to AAA because of, obviously, you having grown up a Tides fan?
Well, it was bittersweet. In Binghamton, we had Ken Oberfell and Howard Johnson as my coaches. And, how lucky am I, an aspiring, third base prospect, to have Ken Oberfell and Hojo, kind of leading the way. So, there was some debate. I found out later whether they should have, they're trying to decide whether to promote me to AAA or keep me there and kind of work on some things, fine tune some things before, going straight to the big leagues later that summer. So selfishly, I'm glad I got called up to AAA because that was my hometown. Getting a chance to play in front of friends and family, I think prepared me for what it was going to be like on a smaller scale, obviously, what it was going to be like in New York, trying to deal with ticket requests and friends wanting to say hello and, the small amount of media that's there, kind of pulling me in different directions while still preparing for a baseball game. So I think on a smaller scale, it prepared me well for what to expect in New York. So as sad as I was to go from Binghamton because I was playing well, team was playing well. I loved my teammates and the coaching staff. I think it was the necessary step for me, to try to prepare me not only on the baseball field, but off the field for the ultimate goal, which is the big leagues.
Obviously, we see players on a daily basis that are trying to get to the major leagues. What is your advice to those players, as they go through AA and go through the whole process?
For me, I think it's to really think about and understand what the goal is. And guys have different goals. So I set myself up, I'd like to think, for success by knowing that I wanted to become a Major League Baseball player. I wanted to solidify myself at third base in New York. So there's a lot of distractions that can come along with playing in New York, for playing in the big leagues, playing in the minor leagues for that matter. But it's staying focused on, for me, what the prize was and not allowing myself to veer in different directions. I wanted to stay on that straight path, that led me straight to New York, and I didn't let anything get in my way. So, I wasn't the most physically gifted player, 6 foot, a little over 200 pounds. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I didn't have the best throwing arm. I didn't have the best hands at third base, but I felt like I outworked everybody. And, when push came to shove and the game was on the line, or I had to make a play at third base, I felt like I was prepared, and it was second nature, as opposed to getting nervous that the ball was going to get hit to me, or getting nervous that I was going to be up there with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. So I think that my work ethic, which I got from my parents, the blue collar attitude, bring your lunch pail to work, type mentality, I think helped me, kind of steer me in the direction where, if I wasn't going to make it, it was because I just didn't have enough talent. It wasn't because I didn't work hard enough. I guess that's the biggest piece of advice, is put in the work so you don't have any regrets when it's all said and done.
It's great advice. The fourth captain in New York Mets history, David Wright. Congratulations on joining the Binghamton Baseball Shrine. And again, really appreciate you being so generous with your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the honor, and hopefully I'll get a chance to come say hello in person one of these days.